Hello everybody, my name is Player Negative, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a characterization video on a certain two characters in fiction. You may know them, you may love them, you probably know who I'm talking about, after all you clicked on the thumbnail. It's one of gaming's most iconic dynamic duos, the infamous, well-known gaming titan himself, Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, sorry, the wrong notes. Wrong, that's for a different video. Just kidding. We're talking about the dynamic duo, the second best in gaming, Mario and Luigi. Yeah, I'm going to do a Sonic video eventually. Anyways, there's been a bit of an issue with the two characterizations. Not about how strong they are, not about how, but an inconsistency between the two. Inconsistency? What do you think I'm talking about? Well, you see, throughout the hundreds, and I mean hundreds of Mario games, there's been an inconsistency between Mario's relationship with his brother being genuine or toxic. Here are a few clips to bring up what I mean. That footage was from the GameCube era of Mario, back when they first added a few sports games. There's even other footage where he sees Shy Guy without his mask, but later years have changed things. Here's footage from Luigi's Mansion 3. So you're probably thinking Mario and Luigi's dynamic is good now. It got retconned, right? Well, no, because apart from that game, there are several others that project this same sort of back and forth idea, to the point where it's been a running joke that Mario doesn't care about Luigi, which is completely untrue. Yet despite that, there are a bunch of frustrating games that both contradict each other, like the end of Super Mario Bros. Wii, where Luigi literally gets tripped on his foot by Mario. So, as a deep dive, we're going to go deep into the personalities of both Mario and Luigi. Now, we're only counting canon media, so only the manga and the games are going to count. So none of the Japanese movies, none of the American movie that are released by Illumination, and definitely not any of the cartoons. Though, some of them do back up a few issues that I will bring up every now and then. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So first, we're going to start where we all began timeline-wise, because the first Mario Brothers game isn't actually where the brothers' dynamic first actually formed. For that, we gotta go all the way back to Yoshi's Island, which is where the root of Mario's development of being a hero and Luigi being a coward started. Here's some footage from the game that I will explain over to make a little more sense. It's heavily implied that at the end of Yoshi's Island, Mario and Luigi's personalities were prematurely formed. Yoshi going around different adventures in treacherous lands inspired Mario to be a hero, and Luigi being locked in a dungeon with ghosts next to a screaming stork is what caused a sense of terror. There's even a manga that backs up an alternate universe where Mario died as a child, but I don't want to get demonetized, so I'm not going to show you any photos. But the factor is, their personalities were changed right from the start. Now, there's also a few other things, but there's kind of a debate on whether or not those are canon or not, so I'm not going to go into too much. And from the very start of that game, basically the two have had this dynamic of canceling each other out, with Mario being the adventurous one and Luigi being the more shy but strategic one. But make no mistake, both of them are good individually and on their own. It's just, well, their situations with each other have changed drastically. We're also not counting Paper Mario because that's a completely separate universe all of its own. So far, Luigi has had a consistent personality of being slightly timid, but very skilled. He can jump higher than Mario and has various different situations. He's also very financially successful with his own mansion. Now, as for Mario, different games don't really have a characterization for him to latch onto other than being a generic hero, but there are a few exceptions like Paper Mario, Luigi's Mansion, a few other situations. Mario genuinely does care about his brother and is willing to help him in various situations. However, a bunch of games does show that his liking to Peach somewhat gets the best of him, which leads to the question of does he actually care? Which leads us to the big game that kind of leans into a weird section. I kind of want to bring this up because very few people talk about it. Super Mario Bros. 2, and if you're wondering which one I mean both of them, because Super Mario Bros. 2, the one we got, is actually a reskin of a game called Doki Doki Panic, while the Mario Bros. 2 that actually was meant to exist is called Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Level in America, and it depicts a very strange picture. You see, the Super Mario Bros. 2 that you and I are familiar with are actually a dream and a reskin of a game called Doki Doki Panic, as I discussed before. But the interesting thing is the entire history behind it, but I'm not paying attention to that. What I want to get into here is the fact that this game is a dream within Mario's head. Why is this important? Well, the real Super Mario Bros. 2, known as... Now, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Level is the game I was mentioning. You see, this is just the NES remake, the Super NES. The original one looked like the old Mario, but the interesting thing about this is that you cannot play two-player. You can only play as Mario or Luigi, which led to the speculation on whether or not these two games are connected. The idea is that Mario, while he's stuck in the land of dreams, which that's not just another word for him slacking off, it's actually a dimensional space that shows up in other games like Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which I'll get into that can of worms later. Luigi was out here defending the Mushroom Kingdom. Now, does this mean Mario's lazy? No. But does this mean that he somewhat is a little bit sluggish? Yes. This game leads into a whole can of worms with its speculation about Luigi's abilities and everything else we get to see him do. Because in this game, Luigi actually is able to jump higher, which leads to a lot of weird questions. Why is Luigi only able to long jump when Mario's not around? Does this mean Luigi secretly holds back to let Mario do his thing because he secretly knows that he's 10 times more stronger than him? This would speculate so, because in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which, yes, that game is canon in some areas, so believe it or not, there's a whole thing talking about that. Luigi has an ability where he can harvest all the negative emotions within his body to create a special type of stun attack. Not to mention, he can shoot lightning naturally, and he has the same flutter jump as Yoshi, and he can speed run across water. A bunch of traits Mario cannot do. But apart from that, the brothers' dynamic has always been a still, steady, true game. Two brothers who would risk each other's necks for each other. And that's no speculation. Luigi is willing to put himself through some of the most stupidest stuff for his brother. From posing as Princess Peach in the RPG games, to helping him block out from being shot by a fireball. The two have done a lot together, and while various games may inconsistently write the two's dynamic, one thing stays clear. That they'll always stick with each other no matter what. Be hooked on the brothers, the brothers, the brothers, the brothers, the brothers. But we're getting off track. Let's get back to the characterization. So we know Luigi has both a complex where he's a little bit timid and shy, but he's also generally friendly, and Mario is known for being heroic and very adventurous and ongoing. But in certain games, that personality takes quite a nosedive. Now, a lot of the Mario games don't have a lot of story and transportation, and Mario lore is kind of something you gotta dig for with 2 shovels, but there's a lot going on here. Of course, there's something more to this. It's the Mushroom Kingdom, after all. This is a world where anthropomorphic rocks exist, skeletons emerge when turtles are shot with fire or lava, and where coins may or may not be the souls of random toads. By the way, that's a whole thing because in the original NES manual, all the Mario characters who are bricks are the same bricks that Mario smashes. For proof, here's an official image from Super Mario 64. Now, apart from the blue guy in the right corner, that's an official image of where 1-ups come from. Every time Mario dies, a random corpse basically grows from the soil, sprouting out a 1-up mushroom to heal himself. Which, sparks a lot of debate. Though, apart from all that insanity, Mario and Luigi's dynamic has kind of changed in a few areas. Now, they were always a sense of brotherly connection and a good bond, but in certain games, like what I've shown you before, there were those instances. However, apart from that, it seems that Mario is generally fine, and so is Luigi. However, Luigi has gotten more noticeably aggressive in other games, specifically Mario Kart and Luigi's Mansion 3. To show you what I mean, here's some footage. In newer, more recent Mario games, Luigi's artwork or expressions in certain games have depicted him as being more aggressive and unhinged towards players as an NPC. And in Luigi's Mansion 3, but I can't download the footage because it's copyrighted, Luigi has the mechanic called the Slam, where he literally uses his vacuum cleaner to suck up ghosts and slam them on the ground with an angry expression on his face. This feels like it's leaning into a new era of Mario where Luigi is going to drop the coward act and slowly become more progressive to be more of an asset than a liability. Newer games have reflected this, including the newest RPG in the Mario series, Mario and Luigi Brothership, where Luigi has mechanics that are actually vital to the game that Mario seems to lack. And we're not talking about long jumps anymore. The guy has detective know-how better than that of Inspector Gadget. And that's not even including the fact that the guy runs his own private casino in Super Mario 64 DS. The guy literally runs a gambling service. If you want any proof, I can pull up some footage of the game right now. So, yeah, if it's worth mentioning, that minigame actually started a lot of people down the path of having an addiction to gambling. That is not a joke, that is the literal truth. But apart from that, it seems that the game is slowly deciding to shift the story of Luigi being less of a coward and slowly becoming more and more of a character who's braver and willing to work with Mario with a good bond. So, there you have it. The Mario Brothers dynamic is two of a brotherly bond that is both genuine and slightly toxic. And while the story is still consistent, it's clear that some things are changing with Luigi, going from being a liability to a great ally and somewhat something greater of a hero. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. This has been Player Negative. See you later.